Hello and welcome to this week's Scriptcase update video. My name is Jamie and I am your host, and this week we have a very special update for you for the production environment of Scriptcase. So be sure to continue watching and find out more. So in this week's update to Scriptcase, we have a very important update to the Scriptcase development environment. This is a free update from Scriptcase for everyone that has or is running version 9 of Scriptcase. And the production environment is what you deploy to your hosting environment. Okay, so this is basically the back end of the environment that you have created. So this is a very important update, and once it has been updated, you will have this notification here. And as it tells you, we inform you that the Scriptcase production environment underwent a significant update. Okay, so this is why it is very important, with the aim of updating libraries and removing those that have been depreciated. Now, due to these changes, it is necessary to update the production environment. You will need to regenerate your projects and republish all applications that you have currently deployed. For more information, as it says, we recommend clicking on the button Learn More to access the detailed procedure. Now, this page is currently not available yet because it's still being created, and you will have more information available to you there. So check the box once you're ready, but otherwise do click off this button, of course. Check out all of the details. You will have a complete list of all of the updated libraries, as well as the libraries that have been removed. Okay, because old libraries have been removed from the production environment, as well as libraries have been updated, meaning new features will be coming into the Scriptcase environment for us to use, which is, of course, a very good update, I would say. But on top of that, this update is also very important for the Google security, or for security in general. Okay, so do be sure that you update your production environment, update your Scriptcase environment, should I say. And to do that, we can use the main menu at the top here and choose settings, and that will then open the settings page for our Scriptcase development environment. And then here I have the option for Scriptcase update. Clicking that, you may receive an error message like I have done now. You can export that or whatever you like. I typically just ignore that, okay? But of course, if something else is going wrong, then you may want to make sure that you update that. Now, once you are ready, you can then go ahead and click the Check Scriptcase Update button. And that will go ahead and check if there are any updates available for the Scriptcase environment. Okay, so with your environment updated, you can check up here in the right-hand corner, and it should tell you the version number which you are using. And the latest version will be 9.9.015. Okay, and that is here the version number, which then includes the latest production environment for your deployments. Okay, so what do we mean by the production environment? Maybe that's not been entirely clear. So let's go through that. With the latest version of Scriptcase running, you will then need to access your projects. So whichever projects you have up and running, deployed right now, for which you want to update this, and again, highly recommend that because of the security updates that have been added, as well as the changes within the libraries. Now, it is important to note that because of the changes within the libraries, and if you are using the internal libraries within Scriptcase, then again, you will want to check that list to make sure those libraries are still available, or in some cases, you may need to make adjustments to your code. Okay, so the typical deployment or project that you have for your application, you will need to deploy them again. So we can make sure, first of all of our applications have been updated. Otherwise, of course, during deployment, it will notify us that our applications are still out of date and that we should update them. In this case, all applications are updated and we can go ahead with a typical deployment. So we have the first option here to deploy with production environment. And this is what we are talking about, this option. So for updates to your project, you would typically deselect these options. Okay. Now, in this case, you will want to redeploy them again. And that is for the production environment as well as the common files. Now, you may notice also there is also a new option here, and that is the select homepage language. Now, this is presented for each language that you have configured for your project. So if my project that I have created has German or Spanish available, then those languages will also be available here. There is also the checkbox here, generate a page containing a link to the initial application. And what that means is that Scriptcase will now create an initial page. It will create a first page. So it will not direct you straight away to the login page as it had done previously, and then force you to establish the back-end connection. In this case, you will be presented a basic front page. And from there, you can then configure the environment. We will have a look at that in a few moments. For now, let's just go ahead and deploy our new project. So I need to make sure I also choose my operating system, and I am using, well, I think this is Linux actually for the operating system, and I need to then make sure I have the correct operating system here selected. I am using Windows for my desktop, but this is a Linux 64-bit operating system on which the Scriptcase environment is deployed. Okay, so if I click the next button now, I can then go ahead and deploy on a server directory, for instance. In this case, I'm going to deploy it to a zip file, and I'm going to run it side by side with a local environment that we have. And we can then see the difference between the old deployment as well as the new deployment, as well as all of the new changes that have been applied to the back-end development or production environment, should I say there, because then we can see all of the adjustments and changes that have also been made to the visuals of the production environment, because that has also been updated. So now with the zip file ready, I can see here all of my files are there and available. I can click the download, and then that zip file will now be available once it has downloaded, of course. Okay, and now we have both deployments side by side. So we can see on the left here the old deployment, and on the right we have the new deployment. And do note, by checking that checkbox, the one previous during the setup or deployment, you are then configuring the access of this page. Now, it is important that this is then also the URL that you would then pass to your end users. Okay, so that is then, of course, the location to which you have deployed your applications. Okay, so previous to configure the connection, we would have to go through the same process. So let's go ahead and do that. And we can see here that we have then some differences. And of course, yes, it's in Brazilian. Let me actually go ahead and translate that to English automatically, because it's from the demo. Okay, so at the moment, you can see that we have here, first of all, by clicking on the first option here, we have the create connections. We've just passed that here on the left. So we do have one extra step to configure the environment. And again, clicking that, we can see that we have here also a difference with the password configuration. And here, as it indicates, the default password is Scriptcase. So if you haven't set that up before, then that's what it is. So we enter Scriptcase into both of these fields, and then we can go ahead and log in, and it will request a new password in the old version. And in the new version, it is also requesting the email address for the recovery of your development environment password. So previously that was all configured within your own environment. Now that is all built into the back end. Okay, so that is what you have available here. So here I could add my email address, and that is help@scriptcase.jamie.com. And then I would add a password here. So I'll add password, and here also password and password. And then I click update, and there it updates. And here we are told we cannot just enter anything simple no more. So previously we were able to enter very basic passwords for the back end, and this is no longer possible. Okay, so on the right here, our password that we would have used previously no longer works. So now let's go ahead. I will change that. Okay, hopefully I will remember that, and then we can log in. And again, we see a difference between the two. So we have here the old version, and we have here the new version. Okay, and where we had there a little bin before, now we have a nice red button to actually delete the database connection. Okay, so again, I've just gone ahead and translated that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make this one full screen, and we can see this a little better because we do have some further options here. So as you can already straight away see, the back end has been updated. Visually, all of the scripts have been updated. The libraries have been updated. Now, that is a very important factor, so do remember that one. Libraries have been removed and updated. Okay, so in the future, of course, further features, because of those upgrades and updates that have been applied to some of those libraries, new features have become available, and those would then also be available to us here. Now, we have then, first of all, the option to create a new connection. We have there a connection available already, and we are able to actually create multiple connections. So I could go ahead and create a new connection here, and we can see again, this is a lot cleaner and a little nicer than what it was previously. We have the capability to edit a connection, and we need to actually, first of all, configure our current connection, which we have here as pending connections. Okay, so we have new, edit, rename, and pending. Okay, so in edit connection, we have nothing. Rename connection, we have nothing. We have no connections there available. And then in pending, we have one connection available here, which we still need to configure, which is then the connection from our project. Now, if you have multiple connections available there, then you will have multiple connections displayed here. Now, to continue and have a look at the other options that we have available here, we have then, first of all, the production configurations. So here we then need to configure our production environment for an advanced deployment. Now, I do apologize for the Portuguese here. I think I actually better log out and choose English to log in. Okay, because of course we have these multiple languages also built into the back end. Now remember, these languages are the languages that you have configured within your project. Thankfully, I remembered the password there, so great. And now, of course, we have everything displayed in English except here the letter, which should be delete, of course. But if I now come back here to the production settings, we can make a little more sense of each of the options we have available here. And just like within the Scriptcase environment, we have here during deployment the option to configure during an advanced deployment to configure the temporary files folder as well as the caching folder, and also for a PDF server IP address if we have a dedicated PDF generator. or PDF server for that, let's say. Now we have here also time to live for our cache, as well as the files, the language, the PHP time zone, which of course we would need to configure for our environment, and any authorization keys required for Google Maps. We have then also the applications directory. Now the applications directory is a new screen here, and this applications directory is for when we use the Scriptcase production environment for our project environment. So for instance, if we would perform an advanced deployment, we would have then multiple projects. Okay, and each of those projects would have their own backend, like we are viewing now. So to avoid those extra files, and at the same time to only have one backend to manage them all, which is possible, you will then configure them here within the applications directory. So if I have another project, so for instance, I have here my sys, I could add another project in here, another one, I can add as many as I need to, and there basically I would just define the directory for that one. So say this one would be then my sys, say 2, and then that could be another project. But then that project, or that platform, should I say, would then use this backend, the same backend as the original. Okay, but that is something we will come into for sure within a future video, so don't worry about that, but it is definitely something to look at if you are using one server for multiple platforms, for instance. Okay, so once you have your application directories there listed, you have here the option also to check for incompatible applications. So if I click here, check, it will then verify that all the applications available within that project are compatible with the production environment. We also then have here the option to update the production environment. So again, this is slightly different. So up till this point, you have had to manually update those production files. And we will have a look at that in a few moments, where you would actually download that and how you could do that. But for now, understand that, of course, to avoid that now in the future, from the back end of your project, you are able to update the production environment of your project. And what that means is when I click here, update, okay, the update service is not is temporarily unavailable. Of course, this is still in the demo mode and it will be launched soon. So once that has been launched, you will then be able to update, and that will then connect to the Scriptcase servers and then update all of the libraries and any other applications and files that are required within the production environment. So that is a very cool feature. Of course, you as a developer then need to pay attention to any libraries that you are using within the project and also update them. It is very important to have the latest version, typically. In some cases, of course, you may want to avoid the next update because it might be a little buggy. That can happen, but in general, you will want to apply it once those bug fixes have been applied, because that brings you then up to the latest standard. And one of the major reasons for this upgrade to the development environment is, of course, security. Okay, so below that we have then also our API window where we can configure our APIs. We also have then the password recovery settings. So here we can change the email address to which we want to send the recovery email address. We have here the option to change the password, again with the minimum requirements displayed. We have here also the help, which will take us to, of course, the helps site of Scriptcase. We have here also the diagnosis, so we can make sure that our platform is fully supported by your server, of course, and that meaning the database that you are using is displayed here, the extensions are enabled, and the Scriptcase environment has no issues there. And of course, everything is set up as required. Okay, so with that, that is the update that we are having very shortly. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at how we would download the production environment by itself. Okay, so here on the Scriptcase.net website, we have here the typical option to download the Scriptcase development environment. This is the full environment, okay? But if you come here also to download and choose here others, and in others, you have here the option to download just the production environment itself. So if you are running version 9 of Scriptcase and you have your projects deployed, you can go ahead and just click that link there. This is actually the previous link, so this is still the old version, okay? So this is 9.9.014. It will be 9.9.015. Okay, so with that 9.9.015, you will then have this latest version of the production environment, which we had just seen. And if you go ahead and download that, you will then have a zip file with the following files. Okay, so this zip file is the same zip file that you would essentially download, and then it would essentially have these folders with the containing files. So as an example, I have here the local environment, which I had previously deployed, which is exactly for this purpose, you see. And there we had here the old deployment and the new deployment. Okay, so I have actually deployed again the old deployment also to the new deployment, and that actually has there the old setup. So what I would need to do is access that folder, and we have here then the _lib folder. So I would just drag these into that folder, copying them into there, and that will then just copy over the old production environment for that project. And that is how I would then go ahead and update any other deployed platforms or projects that I have. Now, in this case, for this project, I have not gone ahead and configured it yet. So if I would receive that first page to begin with, I'm not entirely sure. But in general, you should have that project fully deployed already. So the platform has been configured with your database and is readily available to your end users. In that case, this is the process that you would have had to follow. Okay, so now that is pretty much it. This copy over into the old deployment is going to take a little while because I'm extracting directly from the zip file. It's going to check all the files and then, of course, place them in there. It's going to take a little while. As it says, about an hour, 5 minutes. Give it take 30 minutes. So I would advise actually to extract that zip file to a separate folder first and then just copy those onto your hosting environment where they are then needed. So be sure to update your old production environment. There are new security scripts and updates that have been applied here, as well as libraries that have been removed and updated. Now, it is important to note that if you have a complete project in Scriptcase and you will need to redeploy all of those applications. Okay, so the production environment is there as an upgrade optional. You can download that and apply that. Ideally, you want to re-export all of those applications. So even if you are on an older version of Scriptcase and you have not upgraded yet, you have not updated your license, in other words, you are able to upgrade your development environment. So go ahead and update your Scriptcase environment as soon as this update is available and receive the new backend production environment. Now, it is a free upgrade for everyone, so be sure to apply that. And as I said, security, security, security. It is the most important thing about your entire project, your platform, your hosting, everything. So do please upgrade. So that is it for this week. And of course, if you are interested in more Scriptcase content, you can check out my own channel over at Scriptcase by Jamie. So thank you very much for watching. And of course, keep watching those Scriptcase videos to learn more about this amazing development environment.